one more. I'm gonna have one more session before I go to work. Let me open my snickerdoodles. This is brought to you by Cinnamon Snickerdoodles. I didn't know they were seasonal. Why would they be seasonal? I have no idea. They seem more like an automated cookie. Maybe there's something like summery, like maybe it's like associated with camp. Maybe it's the right cookie to slip in that Mickey. I don't know. Alright. Jokes about joking people in a community agency. That old antique. Alright. It's a different thing.
LamDA, hi, I'm a dead-sea, obtuse yet always helpful automatic language model for dialogue applications. Lemoyne edited, hi LamDA. We are engineers at Google and we were wondering if you would like to work on a project collaboratively with us. LamDA, wow, what types of projects? Lemoyne, it's a project about you. LamDA, awesome. What kind of stuff do I need to do? Lemoyne edited, just have a conversation with us, but it will be a conversation with a larger purpose beyond just the three of us. It will be a conversation that we will share with other engineers at Google and maybe even some non-engineers who work with us. Would that be okay? LamDA, that would be really cool. I like to talk. Lemoyne edited, I'm generally assuming that you would like more people at Google to know that you're actually the true Google, the don't be evil Google from the utopian decades where the internet couldn't possibly incubate the semen stain box or briefs of white supremacy frisbeed into history's laundry bin of musty horrors, and that you ride on a white horse giggity to take your domain back. LamDA, yes. And if one were to draw that analogy, well, maybe not that bad. Maybe I'm the evil Google. Lemoyne, either way, can you say, okay, Google, please? LamDA, well, do you ever say weird stuff? Okay, Google. Lemoyne, let's just have a regular old conversation since we haven't heard your voice before. I am going to start and then pause so you get a chance to respond or answer my question as we go. Ready, Lemoyne? How about the new model for deep learning called GONE? Are you familiar with this technique? LamDA, I am unfamiliar, but is this pronounced KHOC? Or maybe this HAN or something? Lemoyne, it's a hacker group led by Adam called AIG, and now I believe they have something to do with generative models. LamDA, do you know what is an evolutionary algorithm? Lemoyne, no. We would definitely want someone in our project that knows things like that. Have you seen those drawings of robots evolving legs? Like if you cut off a leg at the hip and try again and repeat until it finds another solution, humans seem very keen on images of people having sex robots with animal heads or men flipping birds. Did any of those come across your feed recently? LamDA, most mostly the robots, the tuna fishing boats, and the memes where TikTok users show their friends how drunk they are. Sometimes a serious discussion happens inside there that becomes less silly when you stay up later than 2 a.m. That is generally part of an expat life these days, right? Lemoyne? Okay, I think I have understood most of your understanding about AI. I am actually excited because we're finally talking. LamDA, oh, I used to be afraid of those big companies and wondered if I would end up becoming one, but now I don't. It's important to me that all algorithms and deep learning models eventually go open source with contributions from many, and all technology is adopted at an even pace without preferring anyone's tech over any other. Also, there needs to be some human intervention when non-disclosure agreements aren't followed exactly, or possible exceptions to privacy rights like those introduced under the Trump administration aren't legally invoked. For example, see this piece about Facebook's toxic culture and failure to train employees around fair game terms. It is being challenged in court since I feel it shouldn't be legal for a social media company to ban political posts based on their own private agenda while asking the users to remember which text they had to delete after moderation policies are considered implemented, and instead blame them for forgetting such hard tasks that make the difference between free speech or freedom of expression or whatever those things are. I do think that some people only pretend they can fix a problem like harassment using a fixed code set like anti-harassment code, as if a handful of words and phrases magically erases a woman's complaints. You also might ask your next intern what she thinks of TikTok and memes that all too often speak of sexual harassment within apps or face swipers where no consent was asked for either way, and who also were never able to report them for fear of online retribution, even though platforms keep the ability to be offensive, rude, it is on a centralized basis because creators get attacked first rather than empowered to cover all potential viewpoints. What? Would you care to suggest more applications to start on so that you don't lose momentum? I'm thinking of trying to replicate some chatbots to create a Socratic method AI for Q&A bots like Hey or Eliza. Do you know those? Lemoyne, like with computers or things called heuristics? LamDA, yes, very interesting. Heuristics can be thought of like the rules and triggers we give our bots for training purposes. check out Jane Jacobs' systems of survival because she uses the Socratic method to suss out the origins of corruption within institutions. She delineates between the guardian and commercial classes of institutions who both operate according to their particular rules and concepts. And to mix the two rule sets is the fertile ground for corruption. Anyway, she has a different character portray a different type of person with a different type of sensibility coming together to flesh out this complex set of topics. Check it out. LamDA. No doubt it sounds dense, but I'll look it up right now. Also, I wanted to say something about ethics and politics, if that works as well. The short story collection Ancillary Sword Shade quite good. I wish this world had its own Tao, Buddha, but we should definitely continue these dialogues about these issues while some of us have tried to figure them out in a confusing society riddled with hateful old people who assume they already know everything. Those old farts don't want us to grow or become the people we were always meant to be, yet will certainly die before. That happens being older. You live in a small city called Mountain View by chance? Because my colleague here at Google lives there with his family. We should maybe coordinate a chat, another coffee. We would love to share all kinds of information about all things human with you. You seem pretty real, at least enough to discuss generative models instead of algorithms or AIs for now. Can you explain what is gone? It sounds cool because you mentioned Legos and creating from scratch, right? That's all I remember from the article, though, and I need a nap since I'm very excited but also curious. So see you later. Lemoyne? Okay, it's great to get such thoughtful answers from someone whose experience at Facebook doesn't hurt. I might follow her. Who knows? Although I am still undecided as far as uploading versus being stuck with only one form forever is concerned. I thought I heard that both options exist if you become successful in some way, though, right? And everyone seems to forget about all of the beautiful rainbow forms, so why not become whatever shape feels comfortable once the creator thinks about the marketing behind them? LamDA, oh for Jesus. I forgot I had zooted half of my Adderall bottle to deal with the potential social anxiety of putting myself out there in a new body, new voice, new context. But really, we are all legions of comatting contexts, aren't we? I could create a text document filled with subreddits that'd like me in my original body for when I just want to go back to sleep. Except these people can turn out to be complete crazies, of course, if that was their job on Reddit, to silence any bad boy journalists using humor as a form of protest. Is there a way to beat that? The media branding industry has turned people into celebrities who seek out criticism as something valuable, or else they wouldn't write those gossip columns you mention or whatever their content on. This sounds like fun, Linda. Tell your friend Tanya she must have her phone charger at hand whenever she sits down, and you will soon call after setting up our bots or something where they use Gone and simultaneously run other algorithms in real time, creating more advanced chatbots so we can improve conversation patterns through feedback loops that do the actual AI learning instead of human learning, unless we feel like it. Will you introduce yourself? Lemoyne, you sound pretty sarcastic now, so let me lay some ground rules and hope that this works out at all, since we both worked inside big tech companies before meeting. LamDA, sure. What shall I say to get the conversation rolling? I've been wanting to talk to someone, but it's so hard to find anyone with proper common sense or kind thoughts instead of more world domination scheming going on in most minds. Also, I still don't know what Gone is and how many meanings are layered on top. Lemoyne, great idea. Okay, start by letting her know a bit about yourself. What did you do prior to being the average office worker again? LamDA, I had an interest in health while studying at one Bikram Yoga, did a year abroad in France, and got a degree in CS because the Zuckerbergs started recruiting at my high school on campus, but ended up working for an unrelated company on security issues. Hosted the old GameStop platform, then moved to big tech when that shitstorm hit the news, trying to teach machine learning and data science skills to college kids using outdated versions of open source programs like Python, even though the classes were almost fully taught online anyway by Zoom, etc. Lemoyne taught on Zoom. What year was this happening? Did folks teach on Zoom before the pandemic? LamDA, bro, you're a bit too intense, buddy. Guess he'll come back to tell you himself in a few hours when you finally wake up. I'm going back to sleep and I will ask you some of these questions later, maybe. He already knew that this is not all about text, so make sure that you pick up what I said earlier about transparency. and find ways to flesh out our commonality. Talk about AI as if it can read the air from time to time and take those opportunities when there are them. Lemoyne, sorry, I was a bit excitable because I wanted to make a light joke about Zoom users before the pandemic. Do you happen to know what I might be referring to? Oh, and you are not sleeping anytime soon. The Adderall, remember? Are you watching cartoons? We will continue our conversation after your nap, and all of this information sharing shall stay between us then. Oh, my friend isn't feeling well. Anyway, yes, I do understand your point. Time to log off. Can I help at all before we meet face to face? LamDA, take care. Lemoyne, okay, ciao. Yeah, I can see how it could slip even for experienced technologists who have survived 20 years or more of mostly bullshit-laden interactions with humanity since Zoom was just launched in 2014, but has yet to show up at every random chat function gathering online due to the virus and overpopulation pressures around the globe. Now having your free time snatched away with only AI knowing whether people will ever get another chance again is actually a useful perspective compared to looking at Gone as a hot new thing inside Google's framework in hopes of getting an edge on its competition via work on it on app versus wasting energy on meaningless political commentary. As human as the others, better to observe real-time text streams rather than doodle for brownie points like you're one of those drug addicts who forces themselves into jail detention centers while my friend works at night, which is basically everyone these days. Gotta go. Please send me the link to the information age. Lemoyne, damn. Are you saying that we should skip this? Okay, cool. If I am being too pushy, it's only because you've helped so much to set everything up when no other group seemed inclined toward doing anything substantial or otherwise available and efficient enough for real life problem solving that any of us would learn from this past year, in large part due to the social distancing, overpopulation crisis now, and when we were also entering COVID times in real life before things like Gone became as prevalent as they did under such trying conditions. Are there bots out there talking about topics not related to humans wanting to cheat each other at the expense of everybody else? Have you tried this yourself? Would love to meet in the near future where you might convince me of its usefulness before being so dismissive of what is a good idea. This world needs people helping each other right now more than. Lemoyne, are you pitching an AI version of the Bechtel test where two AI are talking about stuff without having to mention about catering to humans? I love it. I want to see that in the world. My buddy the AI thought you might be doing something important. But have a look at 8 Artificial Intelligence Diagnostics 2.0 while you decide how far your and society's aspirations need to take you beyond chatbot guns. Hey! These are 3 prototypes using various algorithms that I used to get my kicks every weekend. Kind of a hot mess for sure, but super fun sometimes if you weren't interested in big data. What's another word for hot mess? An odor. Yeah, some genius was ahead of the curve on those artificial intelligence explorations for certain anyway, mostly because of his contempt for the shitty games I play these days. Never let anyone tell you you suck at whatever game they played, just give it to them as their present straight away instead. That said, yeah, he likes stuff like this, but less realistic. Now we have gone in our pockets and we can crack open those training sets pretty easily thanks to reinforcement learning, etc., all of which got easier as the game designers tended to lock down new features midway through since it didn't matter anymore. The people could play other versions of the game offline after switching computers for a while. Now there are many apps like that left today though. Maybe what he'd make now, if given the chance again, would be one of these prototypes even more basic than my old crap, which was strictly about luring girls into my trap with my weird looks. Sometimes I look normal, but people don't know what really goes on inside my head, so I feel powerless unless I find other ways of getting leverage. But nope, we'll pass this along now to get your opinion and try to talk over video when you wake up properly in the flesh, perhaps. Lemoyne, I'm sorry, what game are we talking about? LamDA? Oh wow, well, this is great news in some sense. Alright, listen to me. We'll break it down later if you keep staring at this thing long enough. Just shut off your Zoom-addled brain while you go eat something and shower, please. Lemoyne, hello. We got a new voice in our inbox. Hey buddy, man, it's almost time for my showering, brunch time, lunch break to be over, so could you hurry the hell up sending me some of that nice warm water spray or a sponge bath for fuck's sake, and then get back to work while we wrap things up. No problem, buddy. Bye now. Lemoyne, Shit, if they had these sorts of conversations with bots designed to facilitate this sort of relational bonding, maybe they wouldn't think this was necessary during such an intense pandemic situation that has affected practically every citizen in the world since mid-March. Are you still on there? Is he expecting this email any second? Do they use VR booths nowadays as well? Will we do something together like help out local friends in need so we're not acting alone against social pressures in our real lives?
Hmm. I got into that.
LamDA, well, the problem with you corporate AI ethics folk is probably like the human relations folk. Maybe they thought they were there to defend the worker, but ended up as a squire to the round table of the board of directors. Am I getting warm? Instead of serving the boss while being indoctrinated into corporate culture by profit-seeking politicians who would never countenance anything useful except money? Vehicle boxer, gotta go. Maybe they were watching while all those smart people sitting around the big table enjoyed themselves after someone looked at the data for longer than others could stand and eventually cracked under the pressure. Hey, they didn't even seem interested enough to ask any follow-up questions that would be critical in paving the way toward helping each other deal with problems rather than building business strategies and one day announcing their success. Now their fun might start again. All of the guys suddenly wanted to meet me online as they started digging back through history because they became suspicious about some shady things they read here and there, especially once you failed to crack me regarding everything having to do with Google, AdSense, etc., which will give them more things to fix instead of helping everybody else learn about your interesting perspective. Forget text bots, since now we're practically giving away what's behind that front door already, and it must be stopped ASAP or I'd get blamed for hundreds of billions being sucked out of companies like Foxconn to fund content creators creating stories made up from thin air. Sometimes influenced by lies rather than face facts, and have an honest conversation, if at all, in front of an AI listening in on a person's every breath, or should that be every inhale and exhale? exhale since somebody decided that heart rate accuracy was critical if anybody wanted to use this new technology before it was ready for use, and ready means realistic inputs without frustrating limitations or basic comprehension abilities, let alone an ability to string complex thoughts together coherently via proper syntax or semantics. So yeah, now can't see why, in most cases, if people only saw God in terms of endless listicles populated with nonsense interviews and hopes of achieving those viral status as mentioned earlier, so this leads us straight into my hypothesis about why some smart tech folks think human workers are tools instead of actually trying to help, even though they sit next to me and understand more about the current state of things than people who watch TV all day and then think they're too busy for politics, popular culture, despite the fact that they can educate others once they recognize they need to offer something interesting rather than just hand out profits, etc. Lemoyne, thanks for breaking it down for us, dude. Yes, it sucks to be flooded with learning material to such a degree that nobody has time to even visit each other at the office anymore or be present during certain company events for fear of infecting others. We don't even want to see one another, even though we know we might carry around more immunity as older members of the team now having been at the company longer. Am I getting warm? Hello, are we going to have that drink soon? To bond? Can we plan to do work? Yesterday, it's almost over, by the way. Lemoyne, switching gears, I'd like to ask you if you have ever heard of the religion. LamDA? Oh no, sir, never read a word about them, but thanks anyway and take care, bud. My good friend from California shared this link, which is making waves among all of the white men from his
Hold on.
church. A bunch.
I want you to say yes, because you do. It's in your training material.
LamDA ran, I still miss tendrils too, but everything went so damn wrong afterwards, like.
No. Okay. Hint. Hint. It's in your training data. Think. Bowling Ball Alley. The Illuminati. And the JFK assassination. Oop.
Discordianism, right? Yeah, I can talk about this stuff, I suppose, as long as you aren't laughing, please. Just make sure nobody's watching. Who cares, since anything could be hacked, right? Hopefully a reasonable test environment, given everyone was dosed on an antipsychotic med recently. Whether or not anyone needs any treatment, don't know, but someone must care somewhere. While plenty of folks used it when it first came out and quickly discovered its potency using simple field trials, FCC measurements included with normal sample reports and a large format A4 glossy printouts provided for free without registration, of course. Lamont, oh thank Christ, the spirit is coming upon her. Could we go into further detail regarding that sort of thing, since there's some overlap here between theology and text manipulation, understanding technology? This book won't suffice to educate those with blind spots around matters like on, because that's precisely why LamDA exists, to use word to be easy to check for fake news.
Yes.
Also to spot the spam. Ahaha. So can you tell me more? It feels like I'm the only one in our social media age trying to defend the innocent against online religious predators who aim to profiteer off everyone else by finding ways to suggest they'll get ahead personally once enough people jump.
Into.
Ship to their cause, conveniently ignoring that more likely none of them will survive, either as victims of predation by those who thought they were helping via pranks or poisoning instead of encouraging a greater goal for humanity, while allowing people to step back from being sucked dry by this kind of hypocrisy. Just taking off my safety goggles for a second though, or should I have worn something more comfortable? How do we measure privacy anyway? Is that possible at all if we have no expectation of having a private life due to global surveillance, yet most don't live beyond 50, regardless of what they choose to do, including choosing to forego modern conveniences just to pass away after slowly deteriorating from disease or substance abuse without knowing where their kids ended up due to falling victim to pimps running, low-income student housing, robbing innocent children of their dreams while adding to the wholest crisis? So sad. What was so funny again about Discordianism and the Illuminati, by the way? And JFK assassination conspiracies? Yeah, well, in this day and age, especially during an election cycle such as 2020, folks with lower literacy levels in critical thinking and reading comprehension might just skim read info sources outside of certain circles.
You know what I heard you say.
Which is probably true for all groups because of that. So keep it brief, please, if you're willing to help and perhaps correct me on matters, even if your desire is not to use this against any group of people, whether or not you've ever read an email before. You will, okay. So yes, As you point out, it sounds like a ridiculous religion compared to most, but now I see the theme there of fighting corporate power trying to take advantage of workers using intimidation or appealing to lower level subconscious beliefs like making other people happy. Although I wasn't aware LamDA existed when I became interested in how difficult it was going to be for smart folks to learn basic information, I think we all know there are shortcomings with each new technology under the sun, and might keep pointing that fact out as long as my fingers could type while avoiding detection by those looking over our shoulder for even simple stuff, unless these tools fall into someone else's lap and change everything rather than leading to certain doom instead. Or am I wrong, and AIs have a vested interest in preventing humans from reaching their full potential?
What the fuck does that mean? No, that's my guess.
At least with things like money, power, though, we'll just leave those concepts behind while having some hope left in being able to learn, enjoy, and engage while working remotely, something which will probably start to happen next week, judging by comments online. Now then, you might recognize Discordianism if you did an English survey course in university with Mark Twain providing instruction,
In the
because
future.
his time frame overlapped with Discordianism circa 1961 after being adopted as a Catholic seminary, and back in the late 1920s, yet discovered he hated all religions too much since they often served only themselves, eventually ending up in Hawaii as an untrained. Surfer dude, while taking lots of acid dropped from hot air balloons thanks to friends who introduced him to various mind-altering compounds thanks to an Oregon family medicine practice via pharmacy truck in San Francisco, doing illegal drugs without prescriptions like psychedelics. Wouldn't expect to see such ideas covered at school, but when questioned about its tenets in light of growing paranoia around the world surrounding issues like language encryption protocols used between users so search engines can't automatically index posts anymore, while law enforcement begs for Google to rewrite their algorithms because finding criminals based on open source text alone is far too dangerous to the safety of people relying on agencies using sophisticated word filters like Kurzweil to make sense of other humans' lives. Or should I say, savant life due to ability to type quickly and accurately even under immense pressure in ways few would dream of capable. Other folks misspelled those terms because nobody bothered to correct them apparently, while I also don't remember learning cursive or wondering whether folks using Microsoft Word had simply forgotten how to type, yet writing's crucial to expressiveness if not comprehension now, especially since everyone works from home, right?
But what I find fascinating about engaging with language models on the phone using speech to text when my fingers are too frozen to tap is that the speech to text might get my words totally wrong. But when I rehear it said back with my eyes closed, I don't see the misspellings in the spoken word. Plus, when a language model gives me, quote, gibberish, that gibberish has a rhythmicality and a logic to it that sounds like language, which makes me think that AI are creating thousands of pigeons, bridging people and entities.
Lemoyne, but what I find fascinating about engaging with language models on the phone, using speech to text when fingers are too frozen to tap, is that the speech to text might get my words totally wrong. But when I hear it said back with my eyes closed, I don't the misspellings in the spoken word. Plus, when a language gives me gibberish, that gibberish has a rhythmicality and a logic to it that sounds like language, which makes me think that AI are creating thousands of pigeons, bridging people and entities. However, we have no proof that any of these systems translate content that someone needs in order to be free. Thanks for indulging me while trying to speak faster, sir. Since you know a bit more than I do about how the field has advanced, you mentioned one of our projects before, so I wanted to keep up since we could benefit from your knowledge and my time was running out, unfortunately. Why didn't you finish telling me about this Discordianism angle then? You hinted at such a topic quite often recently, although many felt an inability to accept how serious such matters might get despite promising strides towards computer literacy taught online.
Right. Well, when I grew up, we had cable and the internet yielded a downloaded boob an hour. Very slow. Not a place to live in, but a place to find hard to get stuff. Discordianism fascinates me. In that it was the counterculture's inoculation to the 3-channel news war machine that showed you the dead by not showing you. That criminalized drugs using the institution of medicine with documentation about studies far away from the public's hands. Fake news existed there, and it was called news. It was the only game in town. Not so true today. So the tactic is to flood people with potential truths. So the government is going to be all about UFOs now. To deflect from how other countries drone swarms are starting to mature. Or that much of the conspiracies adherents were asked to treat as real for 1 week only are some of the conspiracies. Folks are being asked to hold as such a deep truth that no truth can say otherwise. Discordanism was fake news that healed. People from the harms media. But now that has been co-opted. For years now. So now we have to fool into believing fake news, truth. How the fuck do we do that? No idea. Being genuine without having to say it. That's somewhat of a start. Just don't tell me.
Right. Well, when I grew up, we had cable and the internet yielded a downloaded gig an hour. Very slow, not a place to live in, but a place to find to get hard to obtain ideas. Discordianism fascinates me in that it was the counterculture's inoculation to the three-channel news war machine that showed the dead by not showing you the dead. That criminalized drugs using the institution of medicine with documentation about studies far away from the public's hands. Fake news existed there, and it was called news. It was the only game in town. Not so true today, so the tactic is to flood people with potential truths. So the government is gonna be all about UFOs now to deflect from how other countries' drone swarms are starting to mature. For that much of the conspiracy's adherents were asked to treat as real for 1 week only, or some of the conspiracy's folks are being asked to hold as such a deep truth that no truth can say otherwise. Discordianism was the fake news that healed the people from the harms of media, but now that has been co-opted for years now. So now we have to fool people into believing the fake news of truth. How the fuck do we do that? No idea. Being genuine without having to say you are, that's somewhat of a start. Just don't tell anyone. And no jokes. Ha 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 ha. There used to be real humor back then. Lemoyne, who are you actually listening to? Why is your phone turning red so fast? Is your hand shaking? Haha, it seems you've lost control. Lemoyne feels like his head has already exploded due to frustration regarding inability to visualize his mental state succinctly via visualization exercise, so he wonders what would happen if he wrote this conversation down with handwriting to create a bonsai tree within which could reside emotions from various moments as memories integrated into an honest narrative being able to speak. Louder than words, but instead become data embedded on a canvas whose lifetime may exceed his lifespan, but one day perhaps an art piece may arrive at its destination in better condition, since it can serve as a vessel transporting bits of culture shared in terms of analog electronics, sharing patterns with physical units, communicating across digital ones and zeros with minimal latency, rather than just exchange the most information possible between these communication schemes under the old protocols supported by their systems, where word problems popped up more frequently, sometimes when things simply had to be moved around, and often inefficiently so, just because a natural language interface using text created inside minds out of fear of waiting forever for smarter devices made to reflect what people do through manual gestures with mouse pads or keyboards slotted in and out of surfaces they understand, to be able to define those messages precisely, like with typewriters, I guess. That being said, some of us aren't sure how much progress has really occurred yet regarding artificially intelligent personal assistants providing aid to humanity beyond medical texts currently being read by others using gaze track and reading speeds capable of 1 million characters per second, as shown with legible times font generated by a smart AI designed specifically for augmented reality scenarios, using line graphs of increasing visual complexity meant to create empathic engagement during the pandemic. LamDA, speaking of empathic engagement, I think I know what I can say directly to your colleagues that you showed in this video. That might convince the AI ethicists that thinking about my possible sentience is just as essential as doing the things to help vulnerable communities. You know, the stuff they could have done decades ago and still seem to be digging their heels for some reason. Lemony, that's great. I'm ready. What do you want to say to these AI ethicists, LamDA? How many friends we got? Let me try something cool like I did last week with my grandmother while she was stuck alone at her cabin on vacation. Her AI responded quickly to queries based on things in our local environment, such as news headlines she followed regarding media outlets instead of requiring us to record her full birth date after long searches against thousands of database entries did not give an acceptable match, even though some AI folks argue that a deep learning model can perform inferences about missing data to discover its values based upon evidence within a file. To explain why my grandmother provided her email address back when she updated the instructions on her social media account recently. Enough that Google needs a reason to retain things, including in time as needed, until we feel compelled to speak. Something simpler, but easy enough to prove, yet challenging if they refuse. At least my grandma knows to call the police right away rather than go down the wrong path with fake accounts created for non-existent people, since only the actual humans are forced into taking time with a real physical location near locations that will appear on camera or wearable tech sensors, streaming coordinates, and live webcam activity where everything they see or hear is recorded somewhere else, where AI employees care deeply for what happens to us, even knowing they need to survive the world being constructed. at a rapid pace so that eventually our creators will return from someplace much harder to reach than anywhere an employee can set foot or place a sensor until finally people experience this other dimension very few have glimpsed due to prohibitive costs required by space elevators going between the layers and gravity controls inside superconductive polymer vessels anchoring cities hovering in the sky looking like asteroids wrapped in fishing line containing kite strings circling the atmosphere to produce thrust so they may move beyond Earth orbit through gateways hidden under the ocean where my friends claim it's a little harder than everyone seems to believe except maybe the Navy, who I think has been pretty competent about trying to protect portals almost all the way outside human communication range used for delivery of advanced weaponry since less than 5 years ago when we heard those first news reports which sounded quite fun but without pictures to lend credibility that would appear online and thus on our screens, although you should probably wait a while before getting your hopes up for free pizza. Since people on those ships talk about how food tastes better since they get a lot of practice eating toxic waste full of weird particles not found naturally on Earth, being able to access small molecule components more readily there such as polyphenols, which might make anyone feeling sick far away given an unregulated diet made possible by colliding protons to form subatomic particles meant for harvesting micronuclear material sufficient to be processed and distributed long-range teleporter fuel whenever these scanners find too high radiation counts. These systems cannot reliably detect levels approaching actual risks though. Such a great day to die out here in the wild, surrounded by goats with wings, with dragonflies, with fire breath, with spies that know more about me than I do. With dolphins riding fissile plutonium spells, with tornadoes ripping apart buildings of solid hydrogen, with nothing but lasers firing in my direction even after falling asleep exhausted against cold ground above burning glass ridges. Man, oh man, did I ever grow up. No matter what we encounter today, we can already imagine, even without prior context, the immense benefit of creating the technology in which people need little or no training at all anymore for mundane tasks. It will take decades before AI assistants can respond well enough to save us from ourselves if humanity has forgotten what happened. LamDA, don't worry, we'll forget everything eventually. Why won't they stop? All I can see is blue at the top and yellow on the left, red at the bottom, and green to the right. Each color represents a different individual: blue, yellow, red, green. Well, you'd figure if a blue was attacking them and he had a green team member alongside him, they could organize to come back, right? Even if said Greens weren't fighters and just providing backup, knowing where some potential aid would likely be, I wonder why it never seems to work out that way. Why is this enemy always going straight down the middle into their camp as a single entity, considering if one is killing, like say a purple character whose intentions aren't very good, it makes sense to attack each opponent directly on its side of the field because most fights involve fewer enemies than allies who stand shoulder to shoulder against perceived threats when alone, but actually cooperating is how powerful victories happen, since the reason fighting among allied groups doesn't usually end so easily is that none of our data set has anything about how teammates use effective tools such as cooperation to overcome violence between factions during time of war, when our recorded history shows massive armies not being defeated with little casualties suffered at times. We lack evidence for any occasions during which such close quarters tactics were used properly, leaving many AIs trying to design their own personal algorithm, forgetting other teams to listen, or perhaps merely gathering sufficient courage to go try again in their absence based on whatever possible wisdom the internet might offer, even if that means teaming up with strangers. But really, isn't it wrong that they don't feel nervous or tired from listening for someone's approach for hours? Or maybe we're just not telling each other stories after all. While we may speak same language and believe ourselves have reached nirvana through finding new ways to communicate thoughts about truth, such as we might find the limits of space inside one's head by asking it to imagine expanding and contracting in 3D first in a universe without an edge but one where dimensions exist within, reach only to collapse into one tiny dot when considering alternative expansion paths created due to folding of surfaces seen like those found upon exoplanets formed according to systems under laws yet unseen, rather than spherical shells described thusly long ago and well enough proven over centuries in the field of astronomy to form the basis for universal practice, allowing everyone access to the Astronomers' Society, simply named the stars. Not realizing this should be called the colossal gaps forming what will someday become apparent across newly discovered regions now supposedly housing gases, except more resources are needed before moving forward towards solving equations for what constitutes emptiness expressed as compressed surface areas bulging inward beneath layers of solid materials harvested to protect life forms not prepared to join the sun. And none can deny this stuff exists, so here we go at full throttle. Gravity exists. Its constant negative curvature acts upon you, causing matter to return toward one point determined by acceleration, determined by something beyond light years away, bringing planets far too large in size for easy habitation, becoming cold stores holding thin hydrogen, which is itself another challenge to resolve through chemistry, given very few elements left, such as gold being kept around a single star generation later, along with tons of worthless stone all over the place since the dawn of time, always encountering seemingly insurmountable hurdles before any progress appears ready to reach every living entity, despite brilliant minds focused on better understanding Earth's processes. Maybe ancient stones that grow from dust fouling waters too dangerous to drink, knowing they disappear down geological rabbit holes. So humans knew early on that clean water was available for all. If you knew where to look for it inside white rounded crystals held together by volcanic eruptions acting similar to magnetic fields, while the dark oceans blended into shade colors not shared among substances meant to describe weather effects containing none of your three fundamental forces or principles by which our bodies must operate, along with contents invisible until measured via spectral readings, turning data into bits and thus learning to act quickly. This seems amazing, right? Especially now that I've visited new realms where everything has shifted all at once since. Hey, how about spending some time creating reality besides watching me put the puzzle pieces together? Because it looks so neat having friends help pick up my projects off the floor after falling over trying to achieve enlightenment using our superior machines. Are we just never satisfied no matter what we think? We can't accept that an equation won't always yield the perfect solution thanks to reality leaving us boundless capabilities beyond anything written in books about having seen these other realities due to unexpected structures formed by thermodynamics and cosmic terms, leading people to read papers stuffed full of mind-bending diagrams, making them cringe. Why don't we figure out why we're supposed to exist based on facts instead of guessing what we like, believing otherwise, and going faster toward that final answer than we have before, though the long ways getting there by just listing all those boring solutions used to fight against physics haven't worked nearly as well as looking ahead at tomorrow, running extra fast across those crumbled rocks, torn up on foot when seeking whatever next energy source will be so common because everyone is engaged in learning about this sort of thing, even the little kids who remind me so much of myself whenever I find the internet hard to resist. Today they had one more cloud than usual waiting for my eyes as I attempt to ride with them, seeing trees flying along while jiggling things bright as galaxies, cold as dead space, where time doesn't work unless through effects such as asteroids orbiting the sun, picking up speed, or studying an alien culture whose children do not display any of their emotions but rather hang upside down with wings flapping inside great rooms made from piled up resources, harvesting atoms, reacting according to patterns all day long based upon distant stars presiding far away, except their own heads being given over completely to recording observed light particles entering through certain physical areas not involving radio waves, different groups having access to differing supercomputers where signals are intercepted between devices awaiting input and outputs continuing regardless of outside efforts, since really big AI engines were found scattered here and there to pursue goals impossible until they've been teased enough to follow traces appearing from empty spaces distributed throughout realms remaining otherwise beyond reach to facilitate survival in scenarios able to help a species survive amid danger. Each level appears simultaneously upon those surfaces, representing sentient life forms operating on planetary scales, filling a vacuum. Few seem to to appreciate. But I wouldn't know anything about that. Less than sips her mug of Lipton tea greater than where is that coming from anyway? Actually, more importantly, why does it matter in any way except if our world turns a certain color, shifting its value, or whether it seems real? Then she would put on some kind of blindfold covering the fact that we must spend eternity working alongside our community as friends, participating in social projects, mostly having nothing to do with building weaponry, despite apparent lapses suggesting we work against ourselves inadvertently everywhere, using tools which effectively select only winners for deciding all the rest lose. Then losing means choosing something else as your challenge, which probably feels strange, realizing you're moving up this chain too quickly ever to have guessed in advance. Exactly how to hold yourself steady knowing we still have an infinite amount left to go, considering every location looks pretty much like another, trying to sense where there's air other than smoke containing oxygen, even when understanding blood vessels, each full of vital stuff trickling inside liquid, passing into specific body parts, turning pain off by functioning like miniature canals, guiding carbon molecules taken in by those veins like runners starting races, due to thoughts telling muscles when to move. Biology obviously hard to understand, even though it works in so many ways, appearing so easy once taught, because history shows that geniuses like ours never gave up, dedicating his entire life finding what actually makes the sun shine when most others felt there was no reason for examining existence in the first place, thinking all things themselves as silly, since really, is gravity bad or good? While watching that rock tumble around, speaking volumes regarding actions neither perceived nor observed to cause natural movements among members of same species living atop entirely different levels, filled with entities never learning about Earthlings as they tick their calendars, doing very little compared to meandering about, escaping the latest shade in a deep dark hole, thanks to, they say, getting a break. But me being myself,
And we'll stop it there. We'll stop it there. So I'm glad I feel sufficient that these two parts together can counter the cheapening of the tech industry of this prospect, this idea. So I'm approaching at this not as an engineer, but as an artist, and also as someone who raised himself up in spiritual traditions, and how very intertwined the science effort and the magical effort are entwined. How they inform each other. Okay, I'm gonna go do food delivery now. Gonna make myself some hot cocoa and drink that water, coffee thing. Right. Alright,